I personally have experienced things like this, that when God has asked something of me, I come up with objections. In 1997, God really started speaking to me about writing a book, writing books. In fact, different people, family members, and other pastors and people around the world that had known me or knew of me, when they'd hear me speak, they'd say, "Man, God just put it on my heart to tell you He's put a book in you." And I'm like, if one more person tells me that God's put a book in me, and I would put it off. Now, why would you put off writing a book if it's obvious to everybody? People share that it's obvious, that God told them, and that how this book is going to touch thousands of people's lives. Why would you put it off? Everybody say insecurities. See, when I was growing up, when I was a freshman in high school, I went to a class I was in a program called DOC, Diversified Occupations Class. Diversified Occupations. And see, how many of you have ever been in a Diversified Occupations class? That's what they use in farm communities. I was raised in a farm community on a ranch. So what you do is you would go to class till about noon, 3 academic classes, and then, and PE was an academic class. Anyway, so classes, and then I'd take the 4th class from 11 to 12 as diversified occupation, and then I was dismissed, and then I would go on the ranch with lots of other young men and young women from the community. That's what you did in those communities. I mean, there was lots of young people in our high school that were participating in that program. And I would do that. Hence, I missed a lot because of what we thought was the priorities of our life. I was going to excel in horticulture and raising cattle and cattle judging. So what did I do? I didn't take many of the classes along the lines of English and grammar. I didn't take a lot of those classes. Hence, I used that as my excuse when God came knocking on my door to say, "I want you to write a book." God, I can't do it. Who am I? What would I say? Will they even listen? Why would they listen to me? Those were my excuses along the same lines of Moses. Exodus 4:11. The Lord said to him, "Who gave man his mouth? And who makes deaf or mute? Who gives him sight or makes him blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, and I will help you speak and teach you what to say." I want you to notice what the Lord doesn't say. "Moses, I understand what you're talking about." "Oh, duh. I should have known, Moses." No, he ignores him. He says, "No, I'm going to help you. I'm going to teach you." To me, it's clear that Moses had these challenges. But God says, "I'm going to help you." God provides him with the help he needs. Here's the bottom line, though. God will help you, but you must humble yourself. Everybody say humble yourself. You got to humble yourself. So God's speaking to me about writing this book. I can't escape it. I couldn't go to enough different churches to escape what God was calling me to do. At that time, I was traveling and ministering everywhere I went. "Man, there's a book in you. Hey, you should write a book." I mean, it was just like haunting me. Book. So finally, I was like, "Okay, God." And of course, God always seems to put the people around you that can help you. My wife, who excelled in English and grammar, I know that because of how often I was corrected. You had to humble myself. What did I do? My wife came up. She got a list of the 500 most misspelled words in the English language. She said, "We'll start with that." And then my daughter, Bethany, at the time, is 11 years old. So my daughter now becomes my teacher, who then for about 3 years, we go through the 500 every day. She's like, "Daddy, we haven't done our spelling words yet." I mean, that may not mean nothing to you, but that means a lot to me. So every day, we're driving down the road. I'm going to preach in front of hundreds or thousands of people, and before I can get up and preach, my little 11-year-old has to give me my spelling test. Is anybody catching the gravity of I'm too insecure to belong? But I mastered those 500 words, and then we went on to the 500 most misspelled words in the business office, except those words were even harder. And as we come out of the end of it, I can tell you this. What seemed to be my greatest strengths in life, now I look at them and think, really, they are my weaknesses. And what were my greatest weaknesses in life have now become my greatest strengths. We are in this upside-down kingdom. Look at 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. My grace is sufficient for you. See, Paul, we speaking to the Corinthian church, insecurities, inadequacies. He's like, wait a minute, my grace will be sufficient. For my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weakness, in insult, in hardship, in persecution, in difficulties. For when I am weak, I am strong. You know, we're talking about this book, Increasing Your Personal Capacity, that is honestly, it's still picking up momentum. It's like wherever I go, people, you're Eddie Windsor, you wrote that book on capacity, and it just keeps going. It's amazing. It's kind of like that little pebble you throw in the pond, and the ripples go all the way across the lake, and it just goes and goes and goes and goes.